Hi and welcome back for another CottageCutz video tutorial. Today I'm featuring an interactive card using the Peace on Earth and Nativity Manger scene. This is a giveaway. I will get to that in just a few moments. Here is a look at the card panel that I'm using. So I do have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of cardstock. I am going to be doing some ink blending using weathered wood, speckled egg, and stormy sky. I'll add that black soot around the edges to give that dark, moody feel. I think these blue colors together really create that cool feeling, so a colder night, and I really love it. So I'm going to have to work a little bit because I am using distress inks. You'll notice that I'm going back and forth. You'll notice I bring in my microfiber cloth so I don't get any fingerprints on the ink. This ink does take a little bit of time to settle into the paper, so it is going to appear blotchier on camera than it did in person, and then it did smooth out even more by giving it a little bit of time to dry. This is water reactive ink, so I am going to do a little bit of splattering with some water. I like to put water in the palm of my hand, and then I do a little bit of a clapping motion. The Nativity Manger scene, I did cut it off camera, so I cut it 3 times and I layered it up using some glue. I decided to go with simple white die cuts. I wanted to again go for another elegant card. So adding the ink blending, adding a little bit of the water is going to add some texture to my background. I am going to add a couple more elements, some really fun things to this card that's just going to step up those white die cuts even further. So the Nativity Manger cuts out as one piece, and then the Peace on Earth will cut out in a couple of pieces. I did the same thing with that. I cut it on white cardstock. I used my die cutting machine. It's a single die. I cut it 3 times and then I layered all of those up using some glue. Here's where I'm adding my first set of splatters. I'm going to put it in the palm of my hand, do that clapping motion, take that microfiber cloth, lift up the ink, and then I'll use my heat tool to dry. Once I do that, I'll come back in with that black soot. I am going to be stepping this up even further by using some easy press lights. They're produced by Pear Blossom Press. They are the easiest lights to use on the market. So it comes with one little battery pack, and you insert the battery, and then there's 3 little lights that you're going to see me lay out. There's no connecting of components. Everything comes in one piece. The only mistake, and it's not really a mistake, it was just lack of forethought, was I didn't put a piece of paper in and I didn't turn my battery mechanism vertically. If I would have turned it vertically, I could have either made it to where they could insert the battery themselves if they wanted to, if I was sending it through the mail, or I could have put a piece of paper in between the battery and the inside mechanism that they would just, the recipient would just pull out. Then that would allow the battery to connect to the positive or to the negative, and it would allow the battery not to be drained in the process of mailing. So I'll get to that in just a minute. Here I'm going to add some splatters with my gold champagne Gonzai Tombi watercolors. I like to use a smaller brush because I want to give the look of stars. I'm going to hold this up so you can see all the glittery goodness and how beautiful those splatters and that gold paint look. Look at how pretty and elegant that is. But I'm going to step this up even further. I'm going to bring in a stamp from my stash that's a lace stamp. I'm going to use some white pigment ink because I don't want to detract from the background, but I do want to add that beautiful elegance of the stamp. So I'm going to use white pigment ink, which is going to take a little bit more time to dry. Dye ink dries much faster. I am going to use my heat tool to dry it. If you use pigment ink, make sure that you set it aside or use a heat tool to dry it because it will smear if you don't give it that time to dry. And look at how pretty this is. Isn't that gorgeous? All of that interest, all of that layering. This card with those two dies came together so easily, and it's so incredibly elegant and beautiful. I have a decal trimmer. I'm going to add a little bit of decaling to the edges, so I'll cut off an eighth of an inch on all four sides, which means that it's going to be a 1/4 inch smaller than my card base. So my card base is going to be 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. I am going to glue a piece of gold foil cardstock to the background. It's a really pretty blue foil. I also used that blue foil for the heart so that it just added a little bit more pop of color to this card. There's that chipboard piece. You can see to the right the die, which is the Nativity manger scene. Here is the piece on earth. Here's the first piece. I'm going to angle this just a little bit. I don't want it straight up and down. I wanted that little bit of angle to add a little bit more interest. I'm going to add the letter P. And then finally, I'll add the words on earth. And that nice chipboard feel really gives a little bit of dimension to the front of the card. Now I am going to have to add some double-sided foam tape. I have this black double-sided foam tape in my stash that is ultra thick. In fact, it was perfect for this project. If you only have thin cardstock or thin foam tape, make sure to double or even triple it up. So look at the lights. There's 3 lights, 3 wires coming from the edge of that battery pack. I am just poking holes in my cardstock using a pin. And then I hold the light up to make sure that the hole's large enough for that light to go through. Now, I only put it on one side of the star. I asked my husband, do I put it on the third piece on the other side of the star or at the top of the barn? And we both agreed that putting a light on the left side and the right side of the star was the way to go. So I'm going to start by adding one of my lights to the halo. I didn't have any Scotch tape, so I'm using what I did have, which was packing tape. I didn't think that washi tape would hold it well enough. I wanted to make sure that this was really secure because they are lights. I'm going to attach the second one. And here's where I didn't figure out where I wanted my battery pack. I knew I had enough room to put it on the left or the right side, but I actually only left enough room to put it on my card in the horizontal orientation. So you can see the battery kind of sticking out from the bottom right there. If I would have put it in the other orientation, it would have made it easier for me to stop that connection by putting a piece of paper in there and then allowing me to mail this without the card staying lit. But it's okay. I'll hand deliver this one. Here is that piece of blue foiled cardstock I was talking about. I'm just going to use this as a layering piece because I wanted that extra pop of color in the background. I did use that tape to tape down all of the wires. As you can see, you want to make sure that you're not crimping the wires. Notice how I very carefully just kind of put them in a round circular motion or round circular shape. There's no harsh edges to the wires that would cause the connection to disconnect because it gets bent out of whack. Here I'm adding that foam tape to the back. You need that foam tape because you don't want that white battery pack up against your card panel. You need some sort of buffer so that the light doesn't stay on, because remember, there is an area that you have to press to turn the light on. Once I get all this foam tape on, I will remove the backing and I'll place it in the center of my card panel. Again, this is an A2 size card. I'm going to add an arrow and then I'll add a note in the card to let them know that they just need to press that arrow and the card will light. There I'm showing you it in the daylight. I tried to shut off my lights and you'll be able to see just how much more vibrant the lights are. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, I think that that's so perfect, especially for this manger scene. I'm going to add my heart to the center of the peace on earth, and that's going to be my card for today. So don't forget to leave a comment, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We hope to see you back here again soon. Until next time, have a fabulous day.